Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We should be live. It's not showing up on my YouTube. Oh, there it is. Okay. Turn my sound down. Welcome to our author interview with the amazing Joanna Shupe. I'm super, super excited.
Me too. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yes. I'm super excited. Rachel's here to join. You guys.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here.
We are going to start off. Oh, Tori's here. Hello. Let us know if you're here in the comments. We're going to start off by sharing our favorite book of Joanna's, and then she'll share hers. And in the comments, I want to know what your favorites are as well, because she has a good backlist of some really good books. So I'm excited to see what your favorites are. I'll let Rachel go first.
Okay. Yeah, I think Jess and I have the same top favorite. Has to be The Lady Gets Lucky. And then I have two other favorites that are very close to this one. It would be The Prince of Broadway and A Notorious Vow.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really? This one? Aww. I have them all set up next to me. So
yeah, I have my
you do too. Show and tell. All of these.
Yay. So I will tell you that when I was writing The Lady Gets Lucky, I was really worried that readers were going to think it was too boring. I mean, it really, I was loving it. I was writing it, but a lot of times when I write, I look for kind of those big punches. I look for a really sexy scene or really something different that readers, will kind of, and I felt like I didn't have that in Lady Gets Lucky. I felt like it was a slow burn, which for me is unusual. I felt, I mean, I loved it, but I was like, I really think everyone's going to think this is really boring. So,
no.
I really doubted it kind of as I was reading it. And Diana Quincy is my critique partner. She reads everything I write. Many times over, usually, where I'll be like, remember that book? You got to read it again because I made some changes. And so I always send her the first half of the book because that's my process is I get that first 50% how I want it. And then it goes to her and then she'll come back and say, whatever. And I sent her the first 50%. She was like, I need the rest right now. And she doesn't always do that. And so this one, she was like, you have to send me the full thing. I want to read it again. I think it's your best book. And I was like, wow. So that convinced me that it wasn't boring, that I was kind of on the right track. But again, that story just fit those characters. I don't know that I could ever replicate it because it's that was Alice and that was Kit. And that's just how it all, shook down.
Absolutely.
My personal favorite, I probably have two. If somebody said you have to sit down and read one of your own books, it would be one of these two. It would either be Magnate, or it would be Devil of Downtown.
Oh, love that one too. So I need to read Magnate. So
yeah.
I mean, I'll send it to you.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, so this book was the one that was in my head the whole time that I was sort of writing that first Regency series, because this is where I wanted to end up. So it was I was writing the Regency, hoping that I would get a publisher to say, hey, we think you're great. Let's do more books. And then I would say, hey, great, but I don't want to write the Regency anymore. Have you ever heard of the Gilded Age? And then they would allow me to do it, which is what happened with Kensington. And so this book is really if you got in my head and dug around and pulled out my id, this is it. So I always really love that book because it's got so many of the Gilded Age things that are really my jam that really got me into the Gilded Age. So but Justine from Devil of Downtown is probably the closest to my own personality. She is really me. My older sister is Florence, and then my oldest sister is Mamie. So that Uptown Girl series is really me and my sisters.
Oh, that's so cool.
So when they like kind of make fun of Justine and kind of treat her like she's, you know, that's literally how my sisters treat me. So so it was funny for people were like, you know, Mamie and Florence are so mean to Justine. I'm like, yeah, they are, aren't they? So yeah, that's probably my favorites.
Oh, that's so
Whenever
cool.
I think of this though, and anybody talks about it, I think Rachel, you just talked about it. The bowling alley, like, is just like the most iconic part of this book. The fact that he's a bowling alley just hanging out in his house.
Same
so
with
funny.
like the billiard scene, because I just reread this yesterday and I'm like, yep, I still remember that scene.
Yeah. I thought people were gonna think bowling was stupid. So like,
oh, I loved it.
that for me was like, God, do I dare put bowling in? Is it gonna be real? Like, a reader's gonna be like, he's bowls. Like, how stupid is that? But I did it anyway. So
Jack can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I love him. He's one of my favorite heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is definitely very true. Like whenever we read historicals, it's always like Regency. We're always in London, always with the ton, coming out, having your season. What do you love most about the Gilded Age? Because I mean, if you love it, obviously, you write a lot of it.
Yeah, I came to it through Edith Wharton. I didn't read Jane Austen until I was in my 30s. So I don't have that like connection to Austen that a lot of historical romance authors will talk about. And I just, for me, it was Edith Wharton. So I love old New York. You know, my relatives came from Italy through Ellis Island. So we know a lot of the you know, the family history of that. So I've always been very, you know, obsessed with that. And I lived in Chicago for 6 years, and then I moved to New York City and lived there for, you know, 6 or 7 years before I moved out. So I feel like I know the architecture, the layout, you know, I love it. I mean, I take my girls into the city all the time and we do all kinds of, you know, fun touristy things. And so I just love it. And I think for me, like when I read, it was Megan McKinney's Lions and Lace.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know there really had been sort of this high society, you know, American royalty. I didn't even know.
Right.
So when I read that book in the early 90s, it was, I mean, I just was riveted. Then I started researching, you know, Tiffany and Cartier and, you know, all the department stores. And it was like, it just blew my mind. So yeah.
That's so cool.
That's the Gilded Age for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny you mentioned architecture because I feel like you have that a lot in your books. Well, because I'm reading your newest one and he deals with architecture a lot and like is obsessed with all of that. So it's really cool seeing that and how the architect that she's trying to deal with I don't want to spoil too much of the book, but she needs to build something. And so it's like in this fight with the architects about like, well, I like this style. And then they're like, no, I like the more modern style. And that's really cool to think about. And you wouldn't really, I don't know if you could do that in London, but like since they're building up New York, it's really cool to see that history in the US.
I mean,
this book deals with it a lot.
Yes.
I haven't read that one.
He is an architect, which is really, really cool. I've never read historical romance like this.
Yeah, the idea for that book was Diana Quincy's. I have to give her the credit because she was researching something and called me one day and said, "Did you know that the architect of Hearst Castle was a woman?" And I was like,
"Oh, wow.
Are you serious?" And it turns out it's Julia Morgan, and she was a very big deal in, you know, around the turn of the century and into like the 1920s, 30s. I mean, she built so much in California. It's crazy. So, and it's a shame that people don't really know, you know, a lot of people know of her, but she's not really a household name. So based on that, that's where A Scandalous Deal came from, was that germ of an idea of, you know, a female architect in the Gilded Age and what would that look like?
And I feel like there's a lot that we don't know about the Gilded Age. Like, I feel like there's other periods in American history that are like ingrained into our minds in school, but Gilded Age, not as much.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I enjoy reading about this era so much in historical romances, because I'm learning so much as well.
Good. I feel like, we in America, we feel like we know our history because we've been in history class since kindergarten, but we don't. I mean, we don't know anything about anything really. So it's fascinating for me to dig into it too. I'm always learning. I'm always learning new things. And even the show with Julian Fellows, The Gilded Age, I mean, there've been a couple things where I've been like, oh my God, I didn't know that. And so it sends me down like rabbit holes, even now.
Right.
I haven't watched the show, but I'm interested.
I know, it looks amazing. It looks like beautifully done.
I mean, I almost don't even care about the plot because I'm just so excited that it's happening and like that it's, the dresses and like, it's like, I'm so excited for it. I just don't even care what comes out of their mouth, but it's worth watching for the robber baron, George Russell, who's played by Morgan Spector. He, in my opinion, he and his wife steal the show. So.
Oh, cool. That's another thing I love about the Gilded Age is the fashion, because like Regency era, I'm just like, I don't know. But Gilded Age to me is just like so like opulent and like gorgeous, and I love like the silhouettes and how they're like described in your books, or just, and sometimes like while I'm reading your books, I'll look up images on Google to like really put it clearly into my mind, and it's just so cool.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I mean, probably it's really when haute couture starts is in the Gilded Age by the House of Worth. And I mean, that's, all those sort of iconic dresses that we know of are, Gilded Age. And the American women are the ones that had the money that would go over to Paris and buy those gowns. I mean, that's why we have so many of those Worth gowns now in the US, because that's who could afford them, were Americans. So they would go over and spend weeks over there getting their entire wardrobes done in Paris. So yeah, it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, that is so cool.
I feel like with your characters though, like being in America, they have that chance to like have that wealth, but not have that like generational status. Like for a lot of the ones in England, it's like, oh, they might have inherited a dukedom and they didn't know, but like that's really all you can do to like get wealthy. But here it's like self-made men. I own a casino and I own a supper club, and like look how rich I am now. I'm a lawyer. Like it's really cool the like vast array of characters you can have in the Gilded Age in America and how rich these people get that you can't have in Europe at that time.
100%. I mean, that's, I think, one of the things that, we love most about, some of the people in our history is that sort of raise yourself up by your bootstraps and self-made man. And one of the things that like I always try to play with in my books that's probably more apparent in The Bride Goes Rogue than anything is that no one's all good and all bad, that everyone's kind of a little bit of both in those days. I mean, no one makes a fortune by being nice. You just didn't. And there's no laws. So it really was, I mean, there's no regulatory agencies. There's no federal government that's really stepping in to sort of, any kind of watchdog agency. I mean, it's a wild, wild west. So in the business world and on Wall Street. So to me, there's just so many shades of gray that make characters in that age, fun to play with.
Well,
especially too is that like, yeah, you've got the high society, but, and you do see this in like the Regency era, like the London historicals as well. But like you were just saying, like having them placed in Gilded Age New York, you see that like a lot of these heroes, they have to do some underhanded things. They have to, they're in the underground getting their work done. And yet like, well, maybe more of the heroines are more like high society. But like I said, like I was just rereading the Rogue of Fifth Avenue. And so it's really interesting to see Mamie in particular, because she's in both places. She is the high society princess that her father wants her to be, and then she goes downtown, and then Frank has had to do so much to get to the place that he is as a lawyer for equally rich men who have also had to do underhanded things to get to where they are.
Right. And Frank is completely shades of gray. I mean, he is, he'll do whatever it takes by any means necessary to accomplish, whatever he needs done. So all three of those heroes really do. So
yeah. They do. And that's what's so fun about reading about them.
Especially the last one. So
yeah.
We've mentioned it a little, but do you want to go ahead and tell us a little about the Bride Goes Rogue so people know
sure.
what to expect with
Here
your
it
pretty
is.
new
Hot off the presses. This is an advanced reader copy. It comes out at the end of May. So I don't even know where to start. So this is book 3 in the Fifth Avenue Rebels, and you've met all the characters before. We learned that Catherine Delafield has been engaged to Preston Clark by their fathers. Catherine has sort of been counting on this as a real engagement. Preston had no idea that anybody thought it was real, and she is very type A, wants to cross things off her list. And so she goes to see him and, let's set a date, let's nail down the details. And he's like, what are you talking about? We are not engaged. I'm not marrying you. And so it really sends her on this tailspin of, I've been saving myself for what? I've been saving myself for nothing. And she sort of decides, I'm going to make up for lost time, and I'm going to do whatever I want, and I'm going to go out and have fun. And, Preston is like a developer. So he buys plots of land and puts buildings up and then rents them out. And those guys made a lot of money in those days doing that. So he's very focused on his business, and they have a chance meeting at an event, and it gets steamy. And so then it becomes, I'm attracted to you, but I don't want to marry you. So now what? And I don't know. I'm really doing a terrible job of talking about what it's about. But it's really, it's really a lot of Catherine's story of like finding sort of, her happiness and her worth, and what, if you're not going to be a wife, what are you going to be? What are you going to do? So that's where I started for this book. But it was fun to write. And hopefully there's some little eyebrow raising moments in there.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. Something I wanted to ask you has to do with like how you plan out your books in your series. So for instance, with the Fifth Avenue Rebels series, did you already know like who you were going to write book 3 about when writing book 1, for instance?
This series I did. This series I've had completely planned out from the jump. Because it was always to get to book 4. So it was always like, I had the pieces that needed to fall into place to get to the very end. So yeah, I always sort of knew where it was going. I didn't know, each book, how they were going to get there, but I roughly knew it, and I knew who the couples were going to be.
That's exciting that there's a book 4, because usually like your series are in 3s. So I just assumed that there was going to be a new series next. So that's exciting that there's going to be a book 4.
Yes, book 4 is, I've already talked about it, so it's not really a huge secret, but it's called The Duke Gets Even, and it's Nellie and the Duke.
Oh, okay. That's so exciting.
I was so
like a little hint in that book, and I was like, what's gonna happen?
And the Duke of Lockwood. So that was really Tessa Dare's idea. She gets the credit for that, because when I was outlining the series, she said, well, the Duke has to be the 4th book, and he has to get jilted in he has to get jilted in all 3 books, and then he gets the last book. So he doesn't exactly get jilted in all 3 books, because I thought that would just be too cruel, but he does definitely get put through the ringer. And that book is done. It's finished. We're designing the cover now, and so it comes out at the end of January 2023.
Oh, that's so cool.
It might be my favorite book, I think, that I've ever written. So it was that's a wild one.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So exciting.
Yeah. So
Nellie's such a fun character though.
So I'm so excited to see that matchup.
Yeah.
So cool.
I mean, it hasn't come back from my editor yet, so unless she objects to some of the things that I put in there, there's some wild stuff in there. So yeah, it was fun.
That's so cool. Well, speaking of covers, because you said that the cover's being designed now, like how much say do you have in your covers?
So it depends. It depends, on the publisher. With Avon, I get a lot more say than I did before. They will, with The Lady Gets Lucky, they were not doing cover shoots because of COVID. So that is an old Tessa Dare cover that was not used. Not a cover, an old Tessa Dare photo from one of her shoots that was not used.
Wow.
So yeah. So and I think it was an early Tessa Dare photo shoot. So that's sort of, I think, why it's got like that really kind of old feel to it.
It does. Yeah.
So because we liked it so much with The Bride Goes Rogue, they were doing cover shoots. And so I said, are you sure there aren't any more Tessa Dare photos laying around? Because I really like that one. And they said, no, let's do a shoot, but let's try to match, let's really try to match that. Yeah. So I don't know what book 4 is going to look like yet. We're discussing it. So, but it will be a cover shoot. And they'll let me pick the models. They'll let me, we'll talk about the pose. We'll talk about the colors. They really allow the authors to have a lot of input.
That's great. Have you ever been to a shoot?
I haven't, and they do them in Brooklyn. I would really love to go. So
cool.
I have to ask and like see if I can worm my way in there.
Yeah,
it'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
We are just huge fans of the clinch covers, so we always get super excited when they're still on our historical romances. So
yeah, it's the cover thing is really crazy right now. I mean, I feel like I don't know what to say. I feel like people love it, but I don't know if the stores love it. I don't know. I really I feel like we're in a really weird time with covers. I feel like we're in a transitional sort of what comes next.
Yes.
I don't know.
I agree. I feel like they're kind of all over the place because you're still getting like these stunning clinch covers, but then you're also seeing copycats of the new Bridgerton books. It's all over the place. And then illustrated covers, which is like, for historicals, not my thing.
No.
Right.
But it's like all over the place right now.
Right. I don't know. I mean, it's funny that we're having this conversation because I'm really grappling with The Duke Gets Even. Like, with Magnate, I really wanted all this whole series to have like, because these guys were like, robber barons. I wanted every cover to be that. And this book went out and did not do well. And sales said, people don't think it's a romance. Like what is it? And so they redesigned the other book jackets to be much different because this one didn't do well. And so, I mean, I love this, but
I like it too because I like the scenery underneath.
But
man, that's really cool.
So I don't know. For The Duke Gets Even, I really would love to do something much, much different, but I don't know. So I guess if you love clinch covers, it's good to hear it because, I don't know how much longer they're going to be. I mean, for me, I don't know how much longer they're going to be around because I feel like sales, and you look at all the roundups that come out, in like BuzzFeed and Glamour and Self and whatever, and there aren't any historical romances there. There aren't any clinch covers. I don't know. I feel like we're at a real crossroads right now, especially for historical romance. Like, what the packaging looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. And I thought that like with Bridgerton coming out, things would change, and they have, but maybe not in the way that we all expected. So that's another thing of like being at a crossroads. The industry
Yeah.
doesn't really know what to do at the moment.
Yeah. I agree with all of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, along with like planning out this current series, is there anything that you can tell us about like future ideas or future books or future series?
Well, we're definitely the one thing I can say. So I am working on something for the future, but I don't know yet what shape it's going to take. We're doing another this whole crew.
Yes!
It's gonna be, yay! It's going to be villain I'd like to F.
Yes!
That's amazing.
And that comes out at the end of this year, November.
Oh, cool.
And my story is basically Peaky Blinders fan fiction. So
nice.
Yeah. So that'll be a lot of fun. So that I know for sure is happening. And then I think The Duke Gets Even is the end of January 2023. And then sort of beyond that, I'm still figuring it out.
Mm-hmm. How far in advance do you have to write a book before it's like publication date?
Year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, because it takes me about 4 months to draft it. And then once you get through the edits and everything, and they need it, 8 months, eight or 7 months out, it's got to be done. So yeah, it's a little over a year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Are you always going to be writing series then? Because I think most of your stuff that you do with publishers has been series. So,
I don't know. I'm looking at like a one-off. So we'll see. I don't know yet. Who knows? I have many ideas, but I think the thing I'm proposing right now is a one-off, and then yeah, I wanted to do a baseball series really badly, a Gilded Age baseball series,
that
but
would be so cool.
they didn't think baseball was really sexy. So
well, excuse me.
I know. So they thought, as far as like sports romance goes, like baseball's probably pretty low on the sexy scale, and then also that historical baseball like
I disagree.
Wow. I wholeheartedly disagree as well. Wow.
That would be, I don't think we have any historical sports romances.
No,
there are a few. There's like horse racing. There's one that has golf. There's
golf is like the least sexy sport.
Right.
Give me baseball.
But come on, baseball? I love baseball.
There's Jen Halleck has her historicals are set in the Philippines. I think she has baseball in one of them. But yeah, there's not a lot. And it really, it's like the birth of baseball is like right at that time period. And some of the stories are just crazy, and women played too. It's so fun, but if I can't sell it, like I can't sell it. So maybe that's what I would publish myself down the road if I ever got time. But
right.
I'm trying to think what else. I had another idea for a series, and I can't remember now what it was. Anyway, the ideas are never the problem. For me, it's the time. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Do you have any, you just said it's the time, but would you ever self-publish like a full length? Have you self-published a full length? I've only seen your novellas self-published.
Yeah, right. Because I don't have the time to dedicate to writing like a full. It takes a long time. So I don't know how my publisher would feel about it if I was like, hey, I'm off doing this other full-length novel, and that's why my book is running behind for you. So no, so it's just time. I mean, I don't write full time. I have a part-time job. I have 2 kids, and one of them is in travel softball, and I feel like all I do is drive to like practices and lessons and out-of-state tournaments, and so never say never. I mean, maybe, you know, in the future when my schedule clears up a little bit. So
do you sometimes bounce ideas off of like other author friends or maybe even family members?
all the time. All the time. My husband reads a lot of my stuff before it goes out. He'll read it, you know, in like the very, very final versions. There was something in The Bride Goes Rogue that he was like, you have to change that. It's ridiculous. There's no way that is even plausible. I think, well, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to.
Oh, that's funny though.
I have Nellie. So Nellie's dad owns a railroad. Like literally Nellie's dad is like Cornelius Vanderbilt. Like he owns like all the railroads. And I had her coming to rescue Catherine in the middle of the night, like upstate. And my husband was like, do you know time? Like, do you know time and distance? Like that cannot happen. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so he reads a lot of it, and I do bounce ideas off him, but he's not a romance reader. So it's mostly like, you know, my romance writer peeps that, you know, I will run ideas by. But yeah, we do that all the time because, you know, that's where I feel like a lot of the good ideas come from, are just in those like crazy brainstorming sessions. So
something I wanted to ask about your writing process is, do you have a favorite moment or a favorite kind of scene that you like to write?
Well, I like the steamy scenes. I mean, those are my favorite to write, are those. I mean, that's why I'm in the game. They take a lot longer. You know, the witty, snappy dialogue scenes are very fast to write. So those are fun because it's fast and you feel like, you know, you get like some fun lines in there.
Yeah.
But really the steamy scenes are where I think I enjoy those the best. So
I feel like that takes so much skill to write steamy scenes. Like, I can only imagine, like, I don't know. I feel like romance always gets a bad rap because of steamy scenes and things like that. And I'm like, okay, but I can only imagine the skill that it takes. Like, it truly is a craft to craft together, like, not only the whole story, but something like a steamy scene as well.
Yeah, because they have to mean something. I mean, they can't just be in there, like, you know, for fun. And anybody who says I skip them, I mean, you're really missing out, because that's I mean, they should have a purpose. You know, they should really move the story along. And a lot of it is word repetition. That's what takes me a long time, is like saying, have I said that already? You know, have I used that word? And those are the scenes that I kind of have to slow down and let them breathe. So, which is hard for me. That's something I had to learn. Yeah, that they're hard. They take, you know, whereas one scene might take you a day, like a steamy scene might take you 5. Like, it's just, they take a lot of brain power, for me at least.
And I know for like every historical romance, you have to research a lot. Do you have like, well, how much time does it typically take you to research? And have you ever found something like really, really cool in your research that
all the time
you included in a book? Okay.
All the time. I mean, I'm always researching. I'm trying to think like what let me think. I mean, it's just, and whatever I just happen to stumble across, usually, you know, will end up in a book, or, you know, and I'm constantly, you know, calling people and saying, oh my God, did you know? You know? I'm trying to think in Rogue. Oh, it's funny because I was talking to Diana Quincy about The Bride Goes Rogue, the plot of land that they're fighting over. Catherine and
Mhm.
Preston have this fight over a plot of land. It is where the Flatiron Building is in New York City, which is an iconic, very iconic building built in 1902. And Diana said, "Why is it called the Flatiron Building?" And I said, "Because it looks like an iron. Like it looks like a flat iron. Like if you look at the way the building is
Yeah.
shaped, it's just like, oh, I had no idea." So yeah, but all the time I'm just discovering like little facts that I throw in there that are so much fun. I mean, if
Well,
I
I feel
didn't
like
love research, I would not write historical for sure. Because it just, I mean, that's like so much of what we do is research.
there's just so many like little things you have to know about because even in the new one, she's super into art. So you're throwing out like all these art pieces, and I'm just like, whoa! Like I could not even begin to imagine how much you had researched just for the art storyline alone.
I literally know nothing about art. I mean, literally know nothing about art. And so that is actually a struggle for me. Anytime I'm like, God, I gotta come up with a painting, or I gotta come up with a, I gotta come up with a something, like, because I know nothing. And you can't just research like who was alive in that time. You have to research because there are a lot of artists that like their work didn't become discovered until they were dead in the 1950s or whatever. So like it has to be like, who are the artists that like people were actually buying and were famous at that time? And so it's a giant headache is really what
That you created for yourself.
I swear I'd never want to write like another artist or like somebody in a museum with a museum or anything to do with art ever again.
Have you considered, I'm only asking this because I'm a musician, I'm a singer. Have you ever considered writing like an opera singer heroine, for instance, or like somebody in the music industry?
That would be cool.
I am sort of in the process of pitching one.
Oh.
So yes, I mean, because all of my heroines are sort of wealthy, like on the wealthy end of the city. I haven't gone down that road, but I really want to write like an actress, like singer, hair. Yes.
Yay.
Because there's so much happening in that time period with relation to and so The Lady Gets Lucky, you see the black opera singer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much happening in that time period with regards to theater and in New York City. So yes, I mean, I definitely want to. It's just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
All the ideas.
Yeah.
I think this is an interesting question because especially the Uptown Girls series comes to mind for this. So it says, did you always plan for your characters to be revolutionary women who do amazing things for the time period? Is there a link between those type of characters and representative for the suffrage movement?
So it is fascinating to me to dive into like women's history and like women who do what they're told are not interesting, like, to me at
That's
all.
so
Like,
true.
that's like, women who
Yeah.
That just to me is not an interesting story. But give me somebody who doesn't do what they're told, and now I'm interested. So it was always interesting to me to discover like women who were doing things out of the norm, and who, I'm trying to think, I just bought a book. Oh, this is the most recent one I bought, which was Law Breaking Ladies.
Oh,
cool.
So like, this is the kind of thing that I buy all the time, like on a Barnes and Noble table. And I'm like, oh my God. And you can see I've marked like a bunch of sections because I want to come back to them, like I would love to write a madam,
oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
There's all kinds of ideas. I mean, so I do like to find stories of women who were, really pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable, because that's how we made progress. Um, it was never, it's not a collective movement until one person stands up and says, no, and then other people go, yeah, you're right. So to me, it's always interesting to see where those rebellious ideas come from. And suffrage is, that's a tricky subject, um, because so many get left behind in the suffrage movement. So
That's true.
and really, it doesn't hit the ground until 1910-ish, really 1905.
Mm-hmm.
So in my era, it's more of like rumblings of it, and the upper crust ladies kind of trying to squash it. So it's very much in the background, but in my era, they don't even think that's a possibility. Like they're more concerned with sort of, little steps rather than that, like, let's push to get the vote, if that makes sense. In my head, I mean, that may not be true, but in my head, that's how I approach the books. Nellie's story, I can tell you, revolves very heavily around the right for contraception, which was a very, 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 very big deal in the Gilded Age. They rolled back a lot of the ability for women to get any kind of contraception, and everything, that we hear about the Comstock laws, and that's, where they really tried to arrest women for being indecent, for even talking about contraception. So that kind of stuff is just fascinating to me. And it's always interesting to see how far we've come, but yet how far we haven't come.
That's true.
And it can be a little depressing. But so yeah, I think I'm off on a tangent, but but yeah, I always want to see, the women who are sort of pushing us all forward to, pushing society's boundaries. That to me is what's fascinating.
Which is definitely Nellie too. And you're when we get her
book. And I've never read a historical about like contraception and things like that. So that's going to be really, really interesting as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the last book of the series. I had a point to make, and I made it pretty heavily. And like I said, it hasn't come back from my editor, so she may say, "Listen, we get it, but you got to tone it down." So we'll see. But for me, you can't really talk about women's rights in that era without, talking about Comstock and everything else that was bicycles and everything else that was happening in those day and age. So
I don't think we've asked this yet, but how did you even get into writing historical romance?
Oh, so, I mean, historical romance is where I started. That's where I came into romance. It was Johanna Lindsay and Julie Garwood and Jude Devereaux and McNaught and, all the classic old schools. That's how I came into romance. So I didn't really know there was anything else. I mean, I think Judith McNaught's Paradise was maybe like one of the first, which I happen to have right here because I have 2 copies of it for some reason. I mean, look at how thick this is.
Yeah,
this book is long, 700 pages.
Wow.
I think this was maybe like the first non-historical I read, because I didn't read the short Harlequins and stuff. Yeah, this is 91. This is 91. So, I read like a lot of historical because that's just what was out and popular at the time. I love history. I'm a total history nerd. Obviously. Like,
Yeah.
my vintage typewriter behind me. Like I love history. I have all kinds of like historical knickknacks and stuff in my office. So I love the research. So yeah, I mean, for me, like it's all I really kind of ever wanted to do. And I wanted to write in the Gilded Age because that's my jam. So
were there any other like older school historical romance authors like other than Megan McKinney who were writing in that era? I can't really think of anybody else.
No. I mean, you had the Mallorys, but that was a little bit earlier and that was more New England.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of Boston and up there. No. I mean, and I think like after I read Lions and Lace, I mean, she had the second one that came out, which was The Sister, but that was mostly in the Old West. And the Old West for me just doesn't, you know, that just was not interesting to me. So yeah, I know there really was nobody.
Do you have other favorite historical romance, like specific books you remember loving, other than, I know you've mentioned the Megan McKinney one? Do you have any others that were favorites?
Well, I'm trying to think like, okay, so if I had to like, I loved all the Megan Lions and Lace. I loved all of the Amanda Quicks, like those historicals, because they just were so quirky and fun, and those were just like candy. My favorite Johanna Lindsay, I loved Gentle Rogue because I loved the fact that she dressed as the cabin boy and all that stuff. But I really, really loved Prisoner of My Desire. Which is not as well known, but really imprinted on the early Joanna Shupe reign, which is, you know, she takes him hostage because she has to have a baby for reasons, doesn't matter. So she chains him to a bed and gets pregnant, and he is not willing. So already we know this is problematic, but it's it's the 90s, so you know. And I think it was the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and then it turns out he is this big chief of, you know, some clan, and he breaks out, he escapes, and somebody lets him go, so he's let go, and they don't know who he is. They think he's just some like soldier or whatever, so they send him away, and he's this chief, and he gets his whole peeps, and he comes back like to just destroy this village because he is so angry at what she's done. And so he takes her hostage and does the same thing to her and chains her to the bed, and I mean, it is wild.
Whoa. I mean, back then, man, they were just bonkers.
Very problematic and very wild.
Were crazy back then, though.
Yeah, they were so just bonkers.
Well, I'm gonna have to read that one now. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Prisoner of My Desire by Joanna Lindsay.
So something along the lines of that I want to ask is like, what are your favorite romance tropes?
Enemies to lovers is probably my favorite.
Yes.
I'm trying to think what else. You know, cross class.
I love those. Yeah.
That's, you know, that I write that a lot. I'm trying to think. Like a boss. I read a lot of contemporary, you know, spicy contemporary stuff because I try not to have historical sort of in my head when I'm actually writing it. So like boss, employee kind of thing. I like a lot. Of course, if you've read My Dirty Duke, you know that I love like older. I love the age gap. So I'm trash for age gap for sure. I mean that's like embarrassing to admit, but it's true. So.
Oh, I love it.
I think a lot of us love age gaps. You're not alone.
Yeah. A lot of the reviews are really horrified that, he's 41 and she's 18. And I'm like, well, I said it was an age gap. I don't know what you thought that meant. So
I think you did single parent really well in the Miracle on Ladies Mile.
Oh
thank
yeah.
you.
That was just so good. I loved it. I loved the fact that he like couldn't look at his daughter and it was just so heartbreaking. But then like she brought them together and it was just so
Oh,
good.
thank you. I think I actually read like the idea for him acting that way. I read it somewhere that like somebody like that was actually happened to them. And I was like, God, that's so sad. I
Yeah.
mean, I get it, but like it's so sad. So that was where the idea for that came from. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Are there any tropes that you haven't written yet that you would like to? Or you haven't written a lot?
Gosh. I have too many books and I can't remember what all the tropes are. I think second chance is really hard for me.
Okay.
So I don't know that I will ever. I've written a number of them and I struggle with them every time. So
That is a hard one.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know that it's my strength. So I think I'm kind of done and dusted with second chance stories. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know that I've written a secret baby. I mean,
Oh, that's okay. I don't like those. So those aren't as popular.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question.
Do you have a book or series you'd recommend? Someone asked us a while ago that I didn't get to, that people should start with when they start your books?
Probably Rogue of Fifth Avenue.
Yay!
I mean,
I feel like that's your most popular.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, I don't know numbers wise, but I always hear people talking about.
I think it's the one that it's the one I started with. I think it is one that a lot of people tend to start with.
Good. I mean, either that or maybe The Lady Gets Lucky if you like kind of a slower, more thoughtful, slow burn, on the sweet side, that's probably Lady Gets Lucky. If you like, kind of on the spicy, hot end, maybe Rogue of Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
But I do love like house parties are just like so fun to read about, and the fact that they're like all there together for like a whole week, and that's how this. I just love a good house party in a historical.
Yeah, the third book doesn't really deal with the house party at all. I tried really hard to make it work because I was like, in my head, I had this whole sort of reason like why Preston wasn't there. Preston was supposed to be there and he has a very specific reason why he doesn't show up. And I was really trying to shove that square peg in a round hole. And I think it was Diana Quincy that was like, it's just not working. Like it is not working. Like you have got to rethink it. I think I wrote The Bride Goes Rogue soup to nuts 3 times. And that's very rare for me.
Wow.
The Lady Gets Lucky, that's basically the first draft, what you read. I mean, my editor had very few comments. Wow. The Devil Downtown, that is absolutely the first draft. She said, my editor said, I've never written an edit letter this short.
Yeah.
Don't change anything.
Wow.
Which was that is also very rare. So I forget where I was going with this, but
you said the new one you did 3 times?
Yeah, I wrote that one 3 times.
Wow.
Because I couldn't get it right. And I was trying to
with the house party stuff.
Okay. Yeah, with the house party stuff. And so you will find out that we go back to the house party for Nellie and the Duke, because obviously there's a lot happening off the page with those two that you don't know about yet. So so that was fun. But I have really had to keep track of like where people were, what was happening, who was where, what day was, what. So the house party was tricky.
Mm-hmm.
But fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to have a group of people in one place and move them all around and secret agendas. And
we had 2 people ask your favorite contemporary romances you've read.
Oh my goodness.
Could be current, could be older.
Or just authors.
I really like Nisha Sharma's Dating Dr. Dill that just came out this week. That one I read and I really liked. And the other one that I really liked, where did it go? I had it right here. Oh, is so here's Dating Dr. Dill, which I really liked.
Cool.
It's a lot of fun. It's a Taming of the Shrew retelling that's a lot of fun. And I really liked American Royalty by Tracy Lewis.
I'm excited for that one.
Okay.
Which is basically what if Beyonce and Prince Harry got together. I mean, it's such a great concept. It's really great. So these are 2 that like I just happened to finish recently that I really love. So
Rachel had a good question about the future of historical romance. Did you want to ask that? I don't remember how you worded it.
Yeah. I was wondering, like, what do you want to see from the historical romance genre going forward?
I mean, well, so do you mean like the types of stories that are told, or do you mean like, hey, why can't we all get on the shelves at Target, or like what do you mean?
Yeah, I think it's a little of like everything, but I think the first thing that popped into my mind is like, the types of stories that are being told.
Well, obviously I'd like more inclusive stories, more queer stories, characters of color, all of that I think is really important. Diana Quincy has a book out that I've of course read more than once, called The Marquis Makes His Move, that comes out in the end of the month, in just like a week. And it's a half Arab Marquis in the Regency who poses as a footman to get to the bottom of like what's happened. He's been flim-flammed out of some land, and so he poses as a Marquis. And that book is really different and a lot of fun. So definitely like more inclusivity, I think, is really necessary, and not just in the main characters, but really like the whole world.
Yes.
Which is something that I think that Julian Fellows is doing really, really well in his Gilded Age miniseries that's taking place in New York. It's really fascinating just to see how they're handling that, and I'm super happy because he caught a lot of flack, I think, for Downton Abbey for how white it was.
Oh, gotcha.
But I think I personally feel like the Regency stranglehold is easing a little bit. I mean,
yes,
I feel like there's a lot more Victorian. We see a lot of Western and so that I think is also good, and medieval, and it seems like we're kind of seeing a swing of different time periods becoming popular again, which is nice. And I think we're seeing the rise of I personally love anti-heroes, so like that's why I love Jack Mulligan, because I mean, and Clay, because I mean I love an anti-hero, and that all those Uptown Girls heroes are anti-heroes, and I hope we see more of that, because I love just a villainous hero.
Yeah.
And the non-wealthy, non-titled, sort of your everyday workaday heroes are nice. So hopefully we see more of those too.
We did have a question about Notorious Val, because the hero is deaf in there. Will you ever write another book with disability rep?
That's a good question. So I wrote that because my husband's grandparents were deaf. One was born deaf and one became deaf from an illness in childhood.
Mm.
So I know a lot about like the history of Gallaudet and really dove into the history of the deaf community in the Gilded Age, which was fascinating. And there was a lot of development there and change. So I felt like I knew that world a little bit, and I wanted to do justice, so I don't know that I'm the best person to tackle something else other than that. I mean, never say never, but I feel like there are other people who are probably way more qualified to do that than I am. I felt like with the deaf community, you know, uh, because my mother-in-law was a translator for years, and my husband, when I met my husband, we were like on one of our very first dates. We stopped in Home Depot for something, who knows what, but he's always in there, so fair. And in New York City, the Home Depot on 23rd Street hires students from the School of the Deaf nearby. So when we went in, my husband was looking for something. He stopped, one of the workers to ask, where can I find whatever? And the young man signed, I'm deaf. I'm sorry. You're going to have to go speak to somebody else. So my husband just immediately launched into sign language and and I melted like in a pool of, on the floor. So that always stuck with me, how important communication is. And so that's really why I wanted to write that book. But I think there are other people that are far more qualified than me to really, dig into that.
Any specific characters or couples you'd like to revisit?
Oh, that's a good question. Gosh. Well, it's weird because I do feel like I revisit most of them in like later books.
True.
Frank shows up all the time.
Yeah, he does. We love Frank.
I have never gotten more emails than I did about Frank Tripp. I mean, people were just like, please tell me Frank is getting a book, because so that's why Frank was the first Uptown Girls hero, because I had gotten so much mail about him. That is a good question. I don't know. No, probably. I mean, I feel like unless it was the last in the series, like maybe Jack and Justine, like everybody else, I sort of know what they're doing. And that's why I always write the epilogues, because I love the epilogues. I think I had one book where they made me take the epilogue out, and I was so sad.
Wow.
Yeah, because she was like, "This is not bringing anything to the table. Like, we just have to." So I think I have one book that has no epilogue. I could be wrong.
Oh,
maybe
wow.
maybe that happened in my head. But yeah, so I think My Dirty Duke would have been a fun book to have it be longer. I mean, I couldn't because for obvious reasons, but like that's a book where I just really could have spent a lot of time with those characters. But couldn't for obvious reasons. But so that's one where I would think I would have wanted to sort of dive deeper and spend more time there. But I think everybody else, like, I sort of know what they're doing in my head. So
All right, I have one more question because we are over an hour now, which some people have asked. And I mean, with Bridgerton season 2 is coming out, people are super excited that historical romance is finally on the screen. Which of your series would you like to see, and would you want to see it as a show or a movie?
The current series or any series?
Yeah, any series. Is there a particular series?
What would you like to see as adapted?
Well, I think the Uptown Girls would be fun as a series, especially because the first 2 books kind of happened concurrently. I mean, Florence is off doing her thing while Mamie's off doing her thing. So that would be fun. Yeah.
And there's so many fun scenes in all 3 books that would, I feel like, really translate well to the screen as well.
Yeah. I mean, hey, stranger things have happened.
True.
I mean,
I hope it's opened up doors for more adaptations because
it
would be great, right? It would be great. Yeah. And that's one thing that that Julian Fellows's show doesn't do yet that I hope they do is really show that other side. I mean, we really let's see the Bowery, let's see the Tenderloin, let's see, we really haven't seen any of kind of this seedy. We've seen Brooklyn, which is nice. I mean, there was a huge Black population in Brooklyn in the Gilded Age, and so we've seen that, and that's been fun. But I would really love to see some of the raunchier sides of town. I don't know that he'll do it, but that would be fun.
I have to go watch that show now.
I know, me too.
I'm building it up probably more than it is, but it's been fun to see that on screen. So
yeah. All right. Well, that was so much fun talking all about your books. Your newest one comes out April. I forget what you just said.
Bride Goes Rogue is the end of May.
Okay.
End of May.
And you need to read it because it's so good. It's Hate to Love.
I'm so excited.
Thank you. And if you want to give away an ARC to somebody in the comments, feel free.
Yes. We have a ARC copy to give away. So if you want to win an early copy, just arrived at her house today, leave a comment and we will pick a winner. If anybody wants to win one.
All right. Yeah. I mean, US only, hopefully, but
okay. Yes, I know
shipping is a nightmare.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so US only.
This was fun, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much for letting us interview you.
Yes.
I'm thrilled. Thank you.
You can't tell we're huge fans, so this is very
fun.
I know. I'm very honored. Thank you for reading and.
I'm gonna pick someone real quick. Okay. I'm not looking, I'm just scrolling. It's gonna be this person here. Okay. Carolee. If you want to, you can message me and I will on Instagram and I will get your information to Joanna for your yes. Just confirm that you see that you won. Because I think last time I tried to do this, the person had left, and I was like, I don't know what to do now.
Oh yeah,
you're there. Okay.
She said
okay. Good. Perfect. Awesome. So yes, message me on Instagram. All my stuff's down below, and I will get you your information passed along for your ARC copy. Okay. Perfect.
Yay!
Okay. You're here. Yes, you're excited. Awesome. And thank you so much for the giveaway. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, sure.
That's all we have. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And we'll see you guys later.
Bye everyone. Thank you.